Hi guys, this is TVG, and for today's tribute, we're gonna go to the West Lawn Memorial Park in Gotha, Florida, to visit with a very unique individual, a painter, an instructor, a television personality. His television series ran on PBS for 11 seasons. The Joy of Painting.
I'm certainly glad you could join me today. You ready to do another fantastic painting with me?
And now in revival 30 years later, it runs today on Netflix. Known for his soothing voice and curly hair, Bob Ross. If you haven't heard of him, you will now. Come with me. Let's see what we can find. Okay guys, I'm here at Woodlawn Memorial Park in Gotha, Florida, and this is where Bob Ross is laid to rest. Okay guys, I'm inside the cemetery right now. It took me 3 hours to get here. I'm right outside Orlando. It's a beautiful day here in Gotha, Florida. And I'm gonna take a look right now to try to find Bob Ross. Bob Ross was born in Daytona Beach, Florida on October 29th, 1942, and he spent most of his life in Orlando, and that's where he died on July 4th, 1995, at the age of 52, from the complications of leukemia. But do you know Bob Ross?
Huh?
Do you know Bob Ross?
Yeah, from here. Oh,
He's down there, okay.
the people, the paint.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
People continually say, I can't draw a straight line. I don't have the talent, Bob, to do what you're doing. That's baloney. Talent is a pursued interest. In other words, anything that you're willing to practice, you can do.
Okay guys, here it is. I found it. Here it is, guys. Bob Ross.
Bob was once again called up to the networks.
Bob is looking at us and he's painting a mountain. I don't know.
He does. He's famous for his landscapes. He says millions of people harbor a desire to paint, and I think he's right. Wouldn't you love to be able to?
Well, you know, we've talked about this before. I frankly have there's his book. I have no...
Artistic talent at all?
Absolutely none. None.
We're just going to paint a happy tree right here.
Hey, look what I'm doing here. I'm painting.
All right.
Bob rose to the status of pop culture icon with a series of promotional spots for MTV.
I do love to paint trees. You can make it wiggledy. That's all there is to it. MTV, it's all just fluffy white clouds.
Bob Ross joined the Air Force at age 18, and he spent half his life in the military, and he worked his way up to Master Sergeant, which was a drill sergeant. And he called himself a bad guy because he'd have to yell at people all the time, and he promised that when he left the military that he would never raise his voice again. Bob Ross had a son from his first marriage. His name was Stephen. Stephen followed in his footsteps and actually became a teacher as well.
Bob soon found himself raising a son on his own. His first marriage didn't last long.
Steve was incredibly talented. Bob said he talks better than I do and he paints better than I do.
Bob and his son had a close relationship, and years later, after the Joy of Painting series took off, Steve would occasionally appear on the program.
Steve travels all over the country teaching hundreds and hundreds of people the joy of painting. And I've asked Steve to come in today and show you what he can do in just a few minutes. So I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and I'll be back at the end of the show. Steve?
Thanks a lot, Dad.
Bob Ross's son, Stephen, as recently as 2019, has filed a lawsuit in federal court regarding his father's name, likeness, and image is still being used on merchandise today. People always want to know, can you get an original Bob Ross? And it is possible, but there's only 1,143 available right now that was used in the Joy of Painting.
At the beginning of the show, Bob would start with a blank canvas and finish less than a half hour later with a completed oil painting.
He would paint 3 paintings per episode, 1 during the episode, 1 for before the episode to use as a guide, and 1 for after the episodes to use for photography and close-ups. If you'd like to buy an original, you can, but you got to spend over $10,000. Bob Ross is known for the wet-on-wet oil painting technique.
The wet-on-wet technique is more user-friendly because it allows you to paint very quickly, and if you make a mistake, you can just blend it away. This method allows you to layer colors of paint on top of one another and blend them right on the canvas. Traditional oil painting requires you to wait for each application to dry.
Because as you know, we don't make mistakes. In our world, we only have happy accidents. And very quickly, you learn to work with anything that happens on this canvas. Anything.
Bob Ross appeared on The Phil Donahue Show on April 1994 and dazzled Phil's audience. This would be his last performance since he died a year later.
You know, you don't necessarily jump out of a cake. I mean, you never were that kind of guy.
No.
Put a lampshade on your head.
No.
And what just, you know, you are so cool. You are so calm. You are yourself. And you put together some of the most beautiful work I've ever seen. Look at the light shining. I mean, this is wonderful.
The audience was just totally into this. And, you know, when you're 29 years on the air with an audience every day, you get pretty good at reading audiences. And this audience, at the time that he did our show, was totally rapt.
I'd like to wish you happy painting. God bless, my friend.
It's an honor to be here with you, Bob. Rest in peace. I'll come back and visit soon. And that's it for today. And if you like this episode, please give it an old thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and share it with a friend if possible. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And one last thing, I'd like to give a shout out to my daughter. TVG, out.